very warm welcome. You're watching the blockbuster headlines today, CII Budget Roundtable. You will not see a more high-profile gathering to decode this budget than what we've put together over here. Let me begin by introducing our guests for this program. I'll start from my immediate right, Ashwini Kumar, Senior Leader of the Congress Party, Naushad Forbes, Director, Forbes Marshall, also Vice President, CII. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. Vikram Kirloskar, Vice Chairman, Toyota. We've got Ajay Sriram, President, CII. We've got Chandrajit Banerjee, Director General, CII, Mr. Arun Puri, Chairman, India Today Group. We've got Subodh Bhargav, Chairman, Tata Communications, Sunil Kant Munjal from the Hero Group, N.K. Singh, a man who's seen and made several budgets, now in his new capacity as a member of the BJP. Praful Patel, former Civil Aviation Minister, Editor-in-Chief of the India Today Group, Shekhar Gupta. Right at the beginning is get all our guests to give our viewers a broad sense of their takeaway from this budget. You've got 0 to 10 on this, and you've got a thumbs up and a thumbs down. So where do we start with? We'll start with the CII President. As an aggregation of Indian industry, what do you make, sir, of this budget?
I will give it definitely a thumbs up.
And how many numbers are you giving?
I would not like to give a number for two reasons.
Yes.
One is, frankly, we haven't seen the details, and the devil is in the detail. So I think it's unfair to rate a budget just on 2 hours of hearing, maybe 5% of the total budget document. And second, I think let's wait for some time for implementation to see how it actually pans out.
Broad thumbs up, but
Ajay is also conflicted. He has to state his conflict of interest. Sriram College.
No, I'll be honest with you. I don't think it's a conflict of interest. I think it's an asset for the country that he studied there.
Mr. Vikram Kirloskar.
Yes. Finally, this country has realized what it needed.
Thumbs down, and how many numbers? Thumbs up. And how many marks are you giving Jaitley?
I think I run the same on the marks.
That's not, you don't set a good precedent, Mr. Sriram. That's
I've said the same thing in other interviews. I've said the same thing in the other interviews. It's not correct to give a mark because there are too many items there. There's some things I like, some things I don't like, some things I didn't understand. Mostly didn't understand. So it's very difficult to give a mark.
Why didn't you understand? What is there not to have understood?
Well, the basic thing I couldn't understand is how we are going to get those 4.1 numbers, and I'm still not able to see the math. And when I see the math and understand the math, that's when
let me put some numbers out. Mr. Puri, we're hoping you set the precedent by putting out a number.
I said this earlier that, although it's my channel, that we should have a sign which is like this, right? Which is horizontal. Horizontal, meaning it's not a great budget, but it's not a disappointing budget to that degree, right? So I think I would rate it like that. And as numbers go, I would put it as 5, right? Whatever 5 is.
Why 5? 5 is a very middling budget. Why are you disappointed?
Because I think it lacked the, the economic survey had some very bold statements about the economy and the new way forward. I don't see that translated in this budget in terms of that there should be less government. It's still little schemes, giving things, doing things better. It's just improved UPA 2, right, in that sense. So that there are good things in the budget, but I think that overall thrust to me is very weak.
Subodh Bhargav.
Well, certainly thumbs up, and marks also. I'm willing to stick my neck out. 7.
I'd say 7.
Yes, 7.
Okay, but the point that was made was not as bold and as structurally imaginative a budget as it could or should have been.
I think it's very symbolic in terms of long-term direction, which Mr. Jaitley would take the economy towards deep reforms as we go forward. Number of announcements speak about that in terms of tax administration reforms and a few other things. But on the short term, it falls far too short of any trigger for the economy to get back into momentum.
N.K. Singh, you must explain why is it not as bold and as imaginative a budget as it could or should have been, as everyone was expecting? Well, you had the mandate, you could have done bigger things. Why is Jaitley falling short?
Let me say this, that in
how many marks are you giving the budget, sir?
Well, I'm certainly giving...
11 is not allowed.
Showing what I'm giving. 9.
Why is that?
For the simple reason being that I think that, Arun is right, but you must be conscious of the fact that he is grappling in terms of when the bulk of the year is through. But new budget making will begin now in September itself by the time this budget is passed. Mr. Chidambaram, having presented already an interim budget, had created a lot of problems in terms of shoving a lot of expenditure into next year, taking credit for revenues which were really not due, And therefore, really speaking, he had to build on some of the disabilities coming out of that, compounded by some new other factors like the events on the agriculture sector, the monsoon, the uncertainties in the Iraq. So I think given the circumstances, he was hemmed in by the fact that you cannot expect revenue buoyancy when they have had sub 5% growth for 2 successive years, when the manufacturing sector has been really growing at 0% for the first time for 2 years, when the industry sector as a whole has been growing at 0.9%. So look at the backdrop from where the new finance minister had to begin. In the context of this, therefore, and circumscribed by exogenous and endogenous events, what he has done, in my view, is a very determined effort to put momentum back in the economy.
And K, since you've been in the establishment, it's also a unique budget, given that it's the first time in many years that we've had a budget done without a chief economic advisor in the finance ministry and without a deputy chairman of the planning commission.
Perhaps that could have been the advantage.
Sorry,
and having said that, 90% that he gave Jaitley today will not get him into Sri Ram College.
Can I just button one thing? I just got some news. We were asking, we had a big issue regarding valuation, excise valuation in the car industry, and there were some adverse cases and we were fighting on that. Praful knows about it. For the last 2 years, I just got news that the notification was issued an hour ago. Clearing that issue permanently. You know, I think there's some fast movement. So, perhaps I'll be much more positive.
The Thatcher budget, because it doesn't seem to be, that's what people were expecting Jaitley and Modi to do. Is it a continuation of what Mr. Chidambaram and the UPA were doing in any case?
Let's be very clear about one thing, that I think every year this hype about budget, I think somewhere we'll have to modulate it. Because we've really started imagining that one budget changes it all for the country. And I think budgets are a continuation of any government's exercise, whether it's the past, present, or maybe in future. But having said that, I think definitely, overall, I think it's in the positive direction. I don't want to be critical just because we are not in the government. But broadly speaking, the expectations were far too more, and I also expected something much more to happen. You know, even when you talk about basically growth, I think when Mr. Chidambaram talked of 4.5% fiscal deficit, I think it was by contracting the economy and not so much by expanding the economy and containing expenditure. So if you do that, and this year if you say that I'm going to come down to 4.1%, the fine print, the detail is yet not out, in the sense that how has he brought it down to 4%, 4.1%? Has he expanded the economy enough, or has he also continued with the path of, you know, fiscal consolidation by contracting the economy? So I would await the detail, but I would certainly say that on broad parameters, I think it's not a disappointment, but I'm sure much more could have been done. Again, give him the benefit of doubt. A month and a half into a new government, a new finance minister can't be expected to give you all the miracles, especially when he's not inherited a very strong economy.
I want to introduce now Rahul Bajaj from Bajaj Auto. Sir, I want you to pick out this and this and tell our viewers whether you're giving it a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and how many marks are you giving Arun Jaitley?
How many marks I'm giving?
How many marks are you giving? How many marks are you giving him?
In the circumstances, thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
And in the circumstances, I would give him 6 to 7.
6.5.
Okay, 6.5.
We don't have decimals. So 6 or 7?
Make up my mind. 6.
6. Why 6?
Why not 7?
That's very conservative. Why 6?
Why not 6?
You tell us why 6.
First of all, I don't see really any reason why it should not be 6 or 7. There is nothing negative in this budget. And I'm an independent industrialist, neither Congress nor BJP, but we all know this government was left with hardly anything. A high fiscal deficit, a high current account deficit, a high rate of inflation, and in 45 days now, they say great expectations, and they have not been satisfied. Now, they didn't say, please build up your expectations. There was a great campaign by the present Prime Minister, great campaign, and that built up the expectations. I'm sorry to be sounding very pro-him, but not that I am pro-him, but I'm going by what I heard in Jaitley, my friend Mr. Jaitley's speech. And my negatives are that I don't know what will happen where inflation will come down by December or March. From what to what? Now, I don't expect it to come down from 9 to 6 or 5. It's impossible. I would say it's impossible. But
कुछ तो डेटलाइन दो, कुछ तो specificity बताओ. I'm told, he didn't say it in the speech, but I'm told by somebody that the CSR expenditure is a minor point maybe, but it's a major point for corporates. Not only as before, it is pre-tax and not after tax, but that we knew already. But we were trying to get him to agree. He has not agreed, fair enough, but it's not tax deductible.
The industrialists
You
on
tell
the
me to
table,
spend and then you say it's not tax deductible. I didn't agree with the earlier government. I don't agree with him. Small point, because I'm interested in that. So I'm not saying what it should be. He said, defense, okay, I'm not connected with that. There are lots of defense types here. Then he said something about insurance. I am an insurance type. There's somebody else probably with insurance here. And he said 26 goes to 49 with complete Indian management control. I want to understand what that means. Till now I had 74. I had complete management control. If I did, so it's 51 and a half. Why do you mention it? The reason I'm asking is 2 days ago, 3 days ago, I read in the newspaper that the finance ministry has circulated a paper for the cabinet that they'll increase it to 49. Now maybe it's wishful thinking, but the Indian partner will appoint the CEO and the voting right will be only 26. I'm not saying that's right or that's good, but that's what I read in the papers.
the industrialists on our budget roundtable seem excited, and they seem quite happy, Ashwini Kumar, that instead of the Congress, it's the BJP making the budget. Everybody seems relieved that the bad times are over with the Congress government out, and the BJP is here trying to set things right.
Well, why don't you see the speeches?
How many marks are you giving the budget?
Why don't you see the speeches of the last budgets of all the very distinguished friends here? They said the same thing about the same budget. So that doesn't surprise me. It is unexpected lines. And now what I'm going to say, you're going to say, well, what you are going to say is also unexpected lines. But I'm speaking here not only as a congressperson, yes, as a congressperson, but also as a citizen of this country. I can tell you this. I had much greater expectations from my good friend Mr. Arun Jaitley. I had hoped that he would be able to translate into concrete and specific action the great hype that his leader was able to build in the run-up to the elections. The people of this country who were fed a dream have a right to see some indications of that dream being fulfilled. I see none of them. I give him a total thumbs up to the extent that he has carried forward with all the initiatives of the UPA government. What is the novelty in this budget? What is the inspiring indicator in this budget that would catch the imagination of the country? I see none. I wish I could see one as a citizen of this country, but I don't see anything in that. Look at the symbolisms, and I say decisively, and I say advisedly and consciously, fraudulent symbolism. 100 crore rupees from madrasas, 200 crore rupees for Sardar Patel's statue. I have nothing against the statue. I'm very happy for it. But 100 crore rupees for the agricultural infrastructure fund, 100 crore rupees. What can you do with a fund of that size, or the nucleus of 100 crores, where you have a challenge of an economy where 13.6% of our GDP comes from agriculture. 500 crore rupees only for the agriculture price stabilization fund. What was the point?
Okay, you're saying lots of small things. How many marks are you giving the budget?
I'm not getting into the marks game. I'm not a professor to do marks. But let me tell you this. I wished Arun had done better. I thought he could do better. But this is a missed opportunity, and I'm sorry for it.
Union Farm Minister Piyush Goyal is with us. The industrialists across the table seem to feel that there could have been more. The budget, they feel, has been found wanting. In terms of the expectations that had built up around the budget, they're saying it's essentially a continuation of what the UPA was already doing. Where's the big ticket imagination?
Rahul, हर budget में दिल मांगे मोह वो sentiment तो होना ही चाहिए. And ultimately, I don't think we are a country that stops aspiring for more and better. But I think the mess that we inherited and what we were saddled with, the headroom to be able to make significant changes was only more in policy than in money. The fact is that this is a policy-oriented budget. It talks long-term. It lays a roadmap where this government is going to go going forward. And I think the big picture of this budget is that finally in this country, you're going to see predictability of governance. You're going to see a government which focuses itself on actually creating infrastructure and jobs, and not just pure welfare for the sake of doling out doles or distributing money. Incidentally, just to respond, if you don't mind, to what my very senior colleague just mentioned, he has run government for 10 years and I'm sure he understands how budgets are made far better than I do. But with my limited understanding, the fund that he referred to is a fund that is being created to set a new scheme for segregating feeder lines, distribution lines related to my sector in motion. A fund which is going to be finally working with the states to create a new distribution network. It's a state subject. As and when more states come on board and take that benefit of that fund, I have been assured by the finance minister of any amount of money required to make that happen. Our dream is 24/7 power for every Indian.
By when?
Within the 5 years that the government, the people have given us. And I'm very confident we can achieve it. But when you announce a fund like this, you make a nominal provision, and then as the fund develops its whole scheme,
no, but there was one key question, and I want you to listen to
I just wanted to clarify to you what the fund initiates.
No, just to put the record straight. I was not referring to the 500 crores in the power sector. I have yet to make a point on that. I was referring to the agricultural price stabilization fund. I was not talking about power. So, but even on power, now that you made a point, 24/7 rural electricity to all villages with a nucleus of 500 crore, and you know the size of
it. It's not a nucleus, it's a fund announcement.
Yes,
just provide the nominal amount.
Just give me a moment.
Project for which there has been funding much earlier.
And give one thing. One second. The segregation of the feeders which you're talking about has already been done in Gujarat, has been done in Maharashtra, has been done in Karnataka, in Haryana, it has been done in many states.
8 states.
So appreciate. So 8 big states we're talking about. So there's nothing wrong.
It hasn't happened in UP.
No, I appreciate. No. I'm not taking away any good initiative which you're doing. Fine, appreciate that. Please go ahead and do that. The devil is not about the segregation. It is about the production of power, the quality of power, and the transmission and distribution of power, of which only what you're talking is a very small element of that. The problem is, I wish, and I'm not trying to say that it's an easy job, wasn't easy for the previous government, won't be easy for you also. But with good intentions, what has happened, you see, in the entire infrastructure we've talked about, all you've given is a little bit more money to an already existing highway program, which is tried and tested. You're giving it more money, good enough. You're just giving a little bit more money to PMGSY. Again, a program tried, tested, you're giving it a little bit more money. The question here is of how do we really get the quality of power, the quantity of power, and setting the sector right. I think it's on those fronts.
Just give me a moment.
I prefaced it before you joined that I appreciated the budget and on many counts. So let's not don't look at me. Don't look at me as some opposition politician talking to you. I was just trying to be very objective before you came, and I still am trying to be only objective to the point is that I wish the detailing of your initiatives over the next 5 years. We're not even talking of 1 year. Should have been a little bit more specific and should have been a little bit more realistic, and I wish if that was there, it would have been a little bit, I would say, an extra fillip for everybody to be confident about the future.
I'll explain the two things that you flagged off very quickly, power and the roads. Why the roads needed more money and more predictability in the system was because in the past, with so many problems, the road sector has come to a standstill. And the PPP model, which was advocated a lot, is currently in a state of flux. Most road developers have withdrawn from projects. Case in point sitting in front of us.
The model concession agreements basically have a lacuna which needs to be rectified.
The new effort that we are doing is to bring in
on the contracting issues, the degree of transparency which is to be introduced. And don't forget that it's not only a question of resources, Praful. There's a question of stranded assets on the road.
True.
These stranded assets are there because you have the money.
And as regards power, you made 3 or 4 big ticket announcements. One is made a big announcement that every power plant which is ready up to 31st March 2015 will be given coal supply. That's something which hasn't happened, and everybody has been making all sorts of...
But you got to ensure that the coal is there.
We'll have to supplement.
As I say, you've got to ensure the coal.
If for the last 5 years we hadn't had stagnated coal production because of whatever reasons you and I are all aware of, possibly this situation would not have come to this pass. So we have a situation where We'll have to increase coal, for which we're already working. Environmental clearances are expedited.
Piyush, that's why you should
Quality
announce
improvement.
whether how you're going to give new coal concessions to people, how you're going to encourage foreign direct investment in the mining of the coal in our country, how will you increase the production. I think those specifics should have been a little bit better.
No, the picture is coal doesn't have to be privatized only to increase coal production. Coal environmental clearances are the bottleneck. The court cases because of erstwhile corruption is the bottleneck. It's not a problem that the coal is not there.
Okay.
Coal is there, but I cannot mine it because they are all in litigation.
What I need to do...
There's a monopoly, that's the problem. Every monopoly is bad.
But Piyush, this is not a complete... As long as Coal India operates a monopoly, you will have that problem.
Okay, I need to take a very quick break. There was one question which was fundamental for every viewer watching our broadcast. Will this create more jobs? Will this lead to better increments at the end of the year? Will this revive investor sentiment for all the big top industrialists that we have here? We'll get Piyush Goyal and N.K. Singh to listen to the answers of corporate India when we come back on the other side of a very quick break.